Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the 4 keys. I'm Dave.
I'm Roger.
And we represent Google Cloud Platform. So here's our TLDR for today. First, software development can be measured. Yes, we can. I'm going to tell you how. The way we do it is with 4 key metrics that capture the performance of your delivery team, how well we're able to deliver software to our business. We can collect those metrics using survey data or using instrumentation from our systems. And a research project called DORA reveals the key capabilities that predict success. And you can get started by going to g.co/DevOps. g.co/DevOps. All right, what is DevOps anyway? There are a lot of definitions, and none of them is canonical. We use this one. DevOps is an organizational and cultural movement that aims to increase software delivery velocity, improve service reliability, and build shared ownership among software stakeholders. That sounds cool, right? Raise your hand if you think that sounds like maybe kind of cool. Okay, how? Raise your hand if you know exactly how. All right, we're working on that. And to figure that out, to answer that question, there's a research group called DORA. That's DevOps Research and Assessment. This group started almost 10 years ago independently and then became part of Google Cloud in 2018. It was founded by Dr. Nicole Forsgren, as well as colleagues like Jez Humble. Now, this is a group of scientists that really look at how software teams work, or do they work? What makes them tick? What makes some work better than others? And I'm going to show you a little bit about the research methods that we use. First off, we gather data, lots of it. So we conduct an annual survey across tens of thousands of professionals to look at what things do they do. And the group of people that we look at is really very broad. So international, right? We got people from all over the world. It's a little biased towards North America and Europe, but I think together North America and Europe make something like 50-something maybe. Just making up numbers. You'll find it in the report. Over half of respondents have more than 10 years of tech experience, with the role that they have varying from an IC to a senior manager. And the company sizes go from very small to very large. And we send them a survey, and it takes about 20 minutes to complete, and they do it. And in the process, they learn a little about themselves. It's actually, what we hear from a lot of people is that answering the questions in our survey takes a time to pause and say, what am I doing? What's my deal? If you want to have that experience of taking that reflective pause, I encourage you to check out that link, bit.ly/SODER2022. You can grab it at the QR code. You can participate right now. The survey is happening right now. I want your data, not in a creepy way, your anonymized data. All right, now what do we do with that? Well, we apply rigorous statistical methods to create a model, a predictive model about what things happen, what happens after you do those things. It creates a model that looks like this. Don't bother reading all those words. It's science, trust me. You actually, again, can get all the details. I'm going to go into a few of them today. But we produce this model that's evolving every year. And then we publish it. You can find the State of DevOps report at bit.ly/DoraSoder. It's free. It's a PDF. It's meant for consumption by executives, so it's got lots of cool, colorful charts. And even if you've read this year's, or this is last year, of course, even if you read that, go back into the archives, because there's deep dives every year on different topics. It all kind of adds up to this model. Now, we like to read this model from right to left. We start with, what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve commercial outcomes. What does that mean? That means the things that our board cares about, the things that our CEO cares about, right? The bottom line. So profitability or market share, or even things like stock price, right? Those are our outcomes from this entire model. Now, they are predicted by software delivery performance. And that's a key word there, predict. It doesn't mean cause, because it's not deterministic. It doesn't mean correlate, because it's more than just a coincidence. It is a predictive analysis. The more we do the things towards the left, the more likely we are to get the things on the right. Software delivery performance can be measured. Hold that thought. But it's predicted by a number of capabilities. Now, these capabilities are the things we do in our team, and we have a catalog of them that you can find at g.co/DevOps. And this includes technical capabilities like trunk-based development or shifting left on security. It includes process capabilities like streamlining your change approvals. And it includes cultural capabilities, like having a generative, trust-based way of responding to information. Put it all together and you get this model of how to improve, how your team can improve. We're going to zone in for the rest of this talk on this part of it, which is how do we measure software delivery performance? Now, we've tried to answer this question for a long time. Has anyone here ever been compensated based on lines of code written? Did anyone ever write a cool script that would just generate a whole bunch of useless lines of code? Well done. You did your job really well according to that machine. What about in terms of defects fixed, right? There's a great Dilbert cartoon about how someone says he's going to write himself a minivan. These things are deeply flawed, and engineers are real smart about how to take advantage of those flawed. That, I think, has caused, in my mind at least, a little bit of skepticism. Can we even measure this? But through our research, we have found reliably that we can measure it, and that the measurements that we've used are really predictive of those outcomes we're looking for. And it boils down to these 4 key metrics: 2 for speed, 2 for stability. We're going to look at them one by one. Deployment frequency. How often do we release code to users so that users can see it? Is that a couple times a year, a couple times a month, a couple times a week, multiple times per day? The DevOps movement was in large part started by the talk by Flickr that said 10 deploys per day, and that blew people's minds. It's still a place that a lot of teams aren't there yet, but we're here to help you move faster, get closer to that ideal. The other speed metric is the lead time for changes. How long does it take from when we commit code into our version control to when it's available on prod for our users to take advantage of it? Right? This is sort of the opportunity cost time. How long until from when we want to try and get some code out, how long does it sit in our pipelines, kind of rotting away, before users can actually make something of it? Now, going fast is great, but we also want to not break things. Sometimes that can be a tension. Often it's not, and what we found through a lot of our research is that these things actually go together. Change fail rate says when we deploy things, how often does it blow up in our faces and we say, oopsies, or perhaps saltier language. I know that my change fail rate back when I was running a service was 50% because someone said to me, you know, Dave, it seems like every time you do a deploy, you always do another deploy. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, 1 for 2. And then when that does happen, when it blows up, how long does it take us to fix it? And that's our time to restore service. Now, the difference between low performance and high performance is actually pretty severe sometimes. When we compare, using a cluster analysis, our low performers versus our high performers from our research, we find that high performers, or elite performers actually, have thousands of times faster lead times, thousands of times faster recovery from incidents. At the same time, their change failure rate is 3 times lower, and they're getting code to their users 1,000 times faster. Now, if you want to find out, how are you doing? Are you a low, medium, high? You can take a self-assessment, and you can go do this right now. It takes about 5 minutes. g.co/DevOps, your favorite website. This test will apply our statistical model to your quick answers, and you can find out, based on your responses, whether you are low, medium, high, or elite. Whichever category you're in, good for you. What matters is that we're working to figure out how to improve, and this framework can help you. Now, this is a way to use survey-based data to collect information. But if you want to do it on a regular basis and really reliably over and over again, you might want to try a different approach or an additional approach, which might be something like ...
Instrumentation? Yeah.
That works for me.
All right, so if you're sitting here and this is the first time you're hearing about the 4 key metrics, then you might be thinking, where does my team stand on those 4 key metrics against my entire organization, or even against the entire industry? So the quick check assessment that Dave was just talking about, it really does take literally a couple minutes. It's like a couple of questions. It's a great place to start. So the results are a great indicator of what opportunities exist to improve your processes and hopefully move you towards an elite rating. And even if you're an organization that has an elite rating, that won't really last forever. So how do you make sure that you're maintaining that rating, or at least improving it? So as valuable as the quick check survey is, you have to remember that it's only a snapshot in time. And yeah, surveys are quick, they're easy, but they can have some inherent disadvantages. Fortunately, a lot of those disadvantages are complemented by proper instrumentation. So if a survey serves as a snapshot, the right instrumentation is just like having a live feed of how you're doing and where you've been. Instrumentation will capture events from your software development processes and spit out numbers to show you where you are, how far you've come, and give you ideas of what you can do to further improve. So here's an example of some instrumentation. Our favorite one is the 4 Keys project that Dave and I contribute to. So the 4 Keys is, it configures some resources on Google Cloud Platform or on Google Cloud that together take in different events from different services like GitHub, GitLab, and others via webhooks, and then ingest that data into an analytical database, BigQuery. So that data in BigQuery is then used to create dashboards, and that lets you track and report on your lead time, deployment frequency, time to restore, and change failure rate, which I'm going to say a few more times so we can all remember those 4 key metrics. So the cool thing about this versus a survey is that it uses actual factual data from your pipelines. And that lets you make changes and adjust your processes and procedures while continuously tracking the 4 keys. So that way you can identify patterns and trends over time. And that increases your agility by responding to those trends a lot quicker. So here are some examples. Because simply tracking the 4 keys has been a pretty big game changer for a lot of big organizations. And sometimes it's smaller teams within those organizations, but you'll see how the steps that those small teams make really impact the organization as a whole. And that's regardless of the DORA rating, by the way. This can be, you could take the survey now and you come out with low, medium, high, or elite, and there's still always going to be opportunities for you to make improvements to your processes and pipelines. So Liberty Mutual, they had a very mature, continuous delivery pipeline. It was complete with on-demand production deployments, and they even had an elite score on that DORA assessment. One team, however, they discovered that their lead time for changes was trending up. So if nothing was done, they knew that they could easily lose that elite score. So it might sound like they discovered a problem, like, oh no, we're going to lose that score, our lead time's going up, but that's not true, because nothing lasts forever, like I said before. What they actually found was an opportunity. So after that, they had discussions between different teams, and they investigated the possible causes for that increasing lead time. And what they found was that, for example, some production deployments for new releases, they were being held up by days or even weeks. They found that they realized that the work that they were doing was being broken down too granularly, and that led to a lot of the unnecessary dependencies. And that inevitably led to more delays. They also took a look at how they did their code reviews. And they realized that they could tighten that up and reduce a lot of the merge conflicts they were seeing and speed up the approval process and improve turnaround time. So based on everything that they learned, they were able to implement a lot of impactful changes across their organization, and they reversed that upward trending lead time. So that was just by tracking those metrics. That was an elite rated organization who got the best score possible on that DORA assessment. They were able to reverse that trend and kick off a process of discovery and collaboration, and that led them to identify opportunities, and then that led them to implement those changes. So it didn't just improve that lead time and retain that status, but it helped them better serve the business needs of their organization. Here's another example. And this is opposite. So the other team at Liberty Mutual, they had an elite score. This is a brand new, young, scrappy team at Ford Credit Company, which is the financial services arm of the Ford Motor Company. That particular team, to give you a little bit more context, they handle the lease and payment services that Ford Motors offers to consumers. So one of those services is state-to-state lease transfers. And as a customer, if you're moving from one state to another, which I've done, total nightmare, but the last thing you want to do is have to deal with your state-to-state lease transfer. So as a customer, it's a point of friction. And for Ford, as far as I can tell, it was a source of a lot of customer support tickets. So the personal lifetime communications team, which is responsible for that system for state-to-state lease transfers, they caught wind of the DORA research and the State of DevOps report, and they became interested in finding out how they fare with their lead time, deployment frequency, time to restore, and change failure rate. So in the summer of 2021, they stumbled on the 4 Keys project, and they started measuring those metrics. So as data started coming in, and they decided to zero in on their deployment frequency first, which at this point was monthly. And they also wanted to zero in on their lead time, which was more or less 1 month. And with those numbers, it's very difficult for them to be able to adapt their systems quickly enough to keep up with the business needs and respond to customer feedback. But now that they had that starting point, they were ready to start setting goals and tracking progress. So once again, they saw a huge opportunity. Within a few months, they were able to make changes to their processes and pipelines. They switched over to trunk-based development models. They made the big changes that they were making to their code base became smaller batches of work. They were merging much more frequently and much more quickly, and they were leveraging feature flags. That way they could deploy new code without affecting the current system functionality. So over time, naturally, they saw their key metrics improve. And another number that improved was that number of customer service calls for state-to-state lease transfers. So there were less customers having issues, and the teams that handled support tickets, they had a lighter load because of that. And as they collected feedback about their systems, they were eventually able to incorporate those improvements to their system and redeploy changes within 2 days. So this was just one small team in a large organization. Soon after that, they were given the opportunity to share with the wider organization their strategy and their successes, and others in the organization took notice, and they wondered how they were able to achieve what they'd done. And within the span of 1 year, they were able to reduce that lead time, increase deployment frequency, and make a positive impact on the engineering culture on their team, and that rippled across the entire organization. So there are countless other examples of other teams in other companies in all kinds of industries, and you'll start to notice something about all of them, that even though each team and each organization, even though each of their journeys is different, they all share one common thing. They all started their journeys by understanding the 4 key metrics. So say it with me: deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change fail rate, and time to restore services. So that begs the question, what now? Dave, what now?
Yeah, what now? Well, before we decide what to do now, it's important that we all ask why, right? Why should we do it? And I want to make the point that these numbers are really cool, really impressive. We showed slides with a lot of thousands, and 30 goes to 4,500, great. But numbers are just numbers. So it's really important that we put this in the context of why. Why do we care about making our software delivery more efficient and more stable? And the reason's got to be about a human being somewhere, so a customer, a stakeholder, even just a partner team. And something we heard from all of these success stories was that through the work of doing the iterative process of improving on their DevOps performance, they were able to release better product, release safer. A lot of times, this stuff can really can lead to people sleeping better at night. Jez Humble, who I mentioned, was one of the founders of the research, says that continuous delivery, he literally wrote the book on continuous delivery. He says continuous delivery is the ability to deliver changes to production safely, quickly, and reliably, I think, at any time of day. Basically, it means making delivering software our day job, right? And what we've seen through our research is that a lot of these capabilities that we've shown you are predictive of achieving that continuous delivery. So do this because it's good for your users, do this because it's good for your own sanity, and use this framework to find where you can improve. Any improvement made anywhere other than the bottleneck is an illusion. We can help you find that bottleneck and improve on those 4 key metrics. Where should we go? Well, we should go to g.co/DevOps. Find a lot of resources, including all this research. If you want to dive in and get started instrumenting your own systems, visit bit.ly/DORA-4keys. It's the open source project. You'll also find information about like our Slack channel, which is where we happen to meet Roger from, meet Will from Ford. Also, take the survey, contribute to this year's research, and chat with us. We'll be around. Find us on Slack, find us on Twitter, or find us right here in the room. We'd love to speak to you about what you're doing and how you're going to improve. Thank you.